Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k. Now we recently did a video where we were talking about the Canoptek core and the enhancements and the way to use them, the tactics and all that kind of jazz. In this video we're going to be talking again about the Canoptek core. This time we're going to be going through the 6 stratagems that are available to us Necron players, and again, if they're any use, what we're going to do with them, tactics and whatnot. So yeah, let's just jump straight into this video. Of course, all of these stratagems will only relate to Cryptek and Canoptek units. So Cryptek models and Canoptek units. I don't believe there's a situation on either of these 6 where it can apply to like a Cryptek with immortals and so on. So that won't be an issue in this video. So let's get into the first one, which is Curse of the Cryptek. Now this one is a battle tactic stratagem. It's 1 CP. It's done in your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase, just as they've shot or fought, of course. Now you take your 1 Cryptek model that you target with this stratagem, and if they were destroyed as a result of those enemy unit attacks, then until the end of the battle, each time a friendly Canoptek unit makes an attack that targets that attacking unit's models, add 1 to the hit roll and 1 to the wound roll. So pretty much whatever destroys your Cryptek, army-wide, Canoptek units get +1 to hit, +1 to wound, which is pretty cool. Now first of all, let's mention that this is a battle tactic stratagem. So if you do have an Overlord in the same unit as the Cryptek, then this will be a freebie because it's battle tactic and Overlords have the ability to be able to use battle tactic stratagems for free for a turn. Now this one oddly doesn't get even though it targets a specific Cryptek, it's not necessarily used on the unit, it's just used for all your Canoptek units, which is kind of cool. So whatever culprit has murdered our Cryptek is going to feel it. And +1 to hit is pretty good in a detachment that already re-rolls hit rolls of a 1 or potentially all the re-rolls if you're within the power matrix. And a +1 to wound is even better because let's take for example Canoptek Wraiths with their vicious claws, their strength 6. If you're targeting even toughness 5 models, Terminators for example, you're wounding on 3s, but because you've got the +1 to wound, you're now wounding on 2s. So it's almost like you've just turned your Canoptek Wraith's Vicious Claws from strength 6 to strength 10, because it's the same effect, you're wounded on 2s. So it can be very powerful. Even your Doomstalkers going up against the bigger stuff, you're likely wounded on 3s with your strength 14, you're now wounded on 2s. So that's really good as well. It's also effective for your Canoptek Scarabs, your Canoptek Spiders. I mean, your Scarabs in particular have got a lot of attacks in mass, so they're going to get the +1 to the hit roll. So they're hitting on 4s now. They normally hit on 5s, you're hitting on 4s. You're potentially re-rolling all the hits. And they've got lethal hits, don't forget. So hitting on 4s, re-rolling all the hits could get you somewhere. And a +1 to wound means even going up against toughness 4 Space Marines, with your strength 3 weapons, you're wounded on 4s, with a large volume of attacks, which is why I think it's good. It's also going to help if you've got a lot of Crypteks within your list scattered around lots of different units, because then you can kind of get this stratagem off. The problem is, quite a lot of the time the Crypteks are buried within quite a durable unit. So for example 20 Necron Warriors, that's quite a big unit to get through, especially if you've actually given them the buffs like a Technomantis Feel No Pain, or Orokin's 4+ invulnerable save, or maybe they're with the 6 Canoptek Wraiths. Again, a very durable unit, toughness 6, 4 wounds apiece with a 4+ invulnerable save. And then you'll likely have Technomancer there too. This could literally swing the game if you've got this +1 to hit and especially the +1 to wound nice and early. The issue with using it on the fly though is it may come towards the mid to late game. It may be a little bit too late when you can actually take use of it. Also, don't be using Cryptothralls if you're trying to make use of it, because of course that will make the Crypteks even more difficult to kill. On to the second one, the Cynosure of Eradication, which they actually did a little bit of an FAQ, a little bit of a change to this in the recent update. So this is a 2 CP battle tactic stratagem. To start your shooting phase or to start the fight phase, so either player's turn fight phase, 1 Cryptek or Canoptek unit that is wholly within your power matrix. And the effect is, until the end of the phase, weapons equipped by the Cryptek or Canoptek models, I'll say that again, models, not units, models, they will have the Devastating Wounds ability. Now at first glance you may be thinking, well, it's another freebie, right? Battle tactic stratagem with an Overlord, right? Wrong. Amended to only work with Canoptek models or Cryptek models. So if you think about it, if you've got some Necron Immortals with a Plasmancer in there, you're not going to use this stratagem for free on a Plasmancer to get Devastating Wounds, because the Immortals can't get it. They're not Canoptek, they're not Cryptek. The only way you could use this, realistically, is with the Canoptek Wraiths, but the Canoptek Wraiths can't take an Overlord, so therefore you're not going to be able to use the Overlord's ability to get the free stratagem for that turn. So yeah, when you are taking the Canoptek Wraiths with like the Technomancer, obviously, it's probably the most ideal method to use this stratagem because they've got a volume of attacks, especially with the Whip Coils. You're getting 8 attacks per model, that's 48 attacks per unit if you've got a full size unit. But you can also use the Vicious Claws too, which is half the amount of attacks, but we are getting a lot of rerolls here because we are playing the Canoptek core. So lots of rerolls means we're getting lots more dice to roll to wound, which could inevitably mean more Devastating Wounds. Now this could also work with the Canoptek Scarabs because they've got a large volume of attacks as well. 6-man unit, 4 attacks a base, but they've got lethal hits. You won't be rolling the wound rolls for the Devastating Wounds, so maybe they're not really an ideal target. Also, similarly, the Canoptek Spiders, I don't think they have enough attacks to warrant spending this 2 CP stratagem on, and you have to use it in a single phase as well. Even though they've got ranged attacks and melee attacks, you can't do it for both. I kind of feel like the update has slightly ruined the stratagem now, especially as it's 2 command points. I don't think you're going to get a lot of use out of it, even with the race, really. But 1 CP probably would have been a little bit overpowered, so I kind of get it, but yeah, it has been ruined, unfortunately. The next stratagem on the list is Solar Pulse. This is a strategic ploy stratagem for 1 command point, done in the start of your shooting phase. 1 Cryptek model from your army. You select an objective marker within 18 inches of that Cryptek. Until the end of the phase, weapons equipped by friendly Necron models have the Ignores Cover ability, while targeting enemy units within range of that said objective. So now, cover is extremely easy to get in 10th edition. Pretty much everything is having cover at all times because there's so much terrain in competitive play anyway. So it kind of just feels like an extra bit of AP for a command point. Now it doesn't really matter what Cryptek you're going to target as long as they're within 18 inches of the target objective, so I don't need to go through all the Crypteks here, there's no point. I can't really see this stratagem getting much use, to be honest with you. You're going to be spending your CP elsewhere. I don't really use this one a lot. I can see some situations where you may want to use it, but for me, I don't really like it, not for me. The next one is Reactive Subroutines, which I do like. So this is a 1 CP stratagem when you're going to use it as your opponent's movement phase just after an enemy unit ends a normal, advance or fallback move. And what you do, if any enemy units get within 9 inches of a Canoptek unit, the Canoptek unit will be the target of the stratagem and they can move 6 inches in any direction, a normal move. They can't make an advance move or anything like that, just a normal 6-inch move. Now this one's a really good stratagem for multiple Canoptek units in fact. Now the melee units, such as the Scarabs, the Spiders and the Wraiths, you can use this ability or this stratagem to get closer to enemy units because they want to get into a fight, they want to get into engagement range, so you're just pushing them forward. Remember also it's used just after an enemy unit has made their movement, so it could actually be the first unit that your opponent has moved out of all their movement. And what you could do is you can get your 6 Canoptek Scarabs or your 6 Wraiths with a Technomancer, and you move them 6 inches across, and that literally could block up an entire avenue, and your opponent's like, damn it, I was going to move my other units down that way, now I can't because I don't have fly, and they're also saying, I can't just go through them, I have to stay 1 inch away, and that could literally mess up their plans. It can also get our units onto objectives, which is going to be good because it could potentially deny your opponent scoring certain objectives or secondaries, but also it's getting our unit ready for our command phase, which is coming up in the next turn, which is where we score our victory points. So it's a good way to use that. But for the shooter units or the units that don't really want to get an engagement range, such as your Doomstalker or your Reanimator perhaps, you could use the stratagem to hide them away. Anything gets, say, 9 inches away, all of a sudden you've got an extra 6-inch movement, you can get them out. So they're not likely going to be charged, or you're just going to make your opponent's charge move 6 inches more difficult. You could also then duck them into cover or duck them out of line of sight, so therefore other shooting units that are going to be shooting in your opponent's shooting phase now all of a sudden can't see the unit. So it's a way of getting your shooter units and your non-melee units out of dodge. So yeah, definite thumbs up for me with that stratagem. The next one is the Countertermporal Shift, which is 1 CP. In your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets, you get your Canoptek unit that was going to be selected for the attack, and until the end of the phase, your unit can only be selected as a target of a ranged attack if the model is within 12 inches of the attacking model. Now this one is great on paper, but it doesn't always work the way you want it to work, and I'll explain why. So it will make our unit untargetable. I personally like to run a trio of Canoptek Doomstalkers, for example. If your opponent selects one of your Doomstalkers, and then you go, I've got the Stratagem, they've now got Lone Operative, they then can change the target. And you can actually find this in the rules commentary, and I can't remember the page number, but it's under eligible target. And effectively, long story short, if the target is no longer a target, you can get another target. So all they've done is gone from one Doomstalker to another Doomstalker, and you've spent a CP to do so, which is kind of pointless. Now, in other examples, it's not so pointless. Maybe you've got one single unit of Canoptek Wraiths, or you've got one single Canoptek Doomstalker. Maybe you're playing a 1k game. All of a sudden, this stratagem is very good. In a 1k game, a Doomstalker, a single Doomstalker, not being able to be targeted at range is very effective, or that one single unit of Canoptek Wraith running up the battlefield, and you've got some Tau or Astra Militarum on the corners trying to fire with their range, their big heavy weapons, but they're now not within 12, so your Wraiths are going through being unscathed by those certain ranged attacks. So it is good in some situations, in other situations it's not as good. Then we get on to the final one, which is the Suboptimal Facade. This is done for 1 CP in your opponent's charge phase, just after an enemy unit has declared a charge. You select one Canoptek unit from your army that was selected as a target of the charge, and you've got to wholly be within your power matrix. That one's very key. And you effectively get to use reanimation protocols. This one can often be overlooked, but could be the difference between winning and losing a fight. Maybe you're down to sort of 4.5 Wraiths, one Wraith's on 2 wounds and you've got 4 others, and you've got a Reanimator. Maybe you've got Canoptek Reanimator within 3 inches of this ongoing fight. You get charged, and all of a sudden you get to, for 1 CP, on average you'll pop in 4 wounds back into the unit. Now if you're on 4.5 Wraiths that you've currently got, that means on average you're going to have a full unit by the time you're fighting. Okay, one will be on only 2 wounds, but you've got 6 models there. 6 models there means you're going to get all the attacks. You're going to be re-rolling all the attacks because you're within your power matrix, of course. Otherwise the stratagem isn't eligible. But also you're going to be really durable. So now all of a sudden OC comes into play. So your opponent may be trying to push you off an objective, trying to turn off your power matrix perhaps, or trying to just deny you from scoring victory points. And this could be the difference between victory points and the power matrix staying on or turning off. So I think it could be a good factor, and something to have up your sleeve if needed. Now in fact it could be used on something like a Canoptek Doomstalker. It could keep him, or keep it rather, from falling below 4 wounds, because if it goes below 4 wounds it's a -1 to hit. Yes, you're re-rolling all the hit rolls, but a -1 to hit when you're already hitting on 4s isn't ideal. So you don't want to be going below 4 wounds because of the bracket table that the datasheet has. So if you're able to use reanimation protocols before getting charged, it could keep that from being bracketed, or could just keep him alive in fact in general. So I think it's an okay stratagem. You're not going to see it every single game, in fact you might see it less common than you think, but I think it is an underestimated stratagem if used at the right time. So that is the 6 stratagems for the Canoptek Court. We're probably going to move into, I don't know what we'll do next, maybe the Hive Crypt Legion. I think that's everyone's go-to. It is for me anyway. I really like the Hive Crypt Legion. We'll talk about the enhancements and the stratagems in the next up and coming videos. But yeah guys, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.